Hello everyone, this video is in continuation with the first lecture on hypertension. So let us start with the presentation. In the previous video I have discussed about the definition, the pathophysiology of hypertension, the classification of antihypertensive drugs, their mechanism and their preferences in treatment of different patients of hypertension. I'll be continuing with the pharmacotherapy of hypertension, and later on I'll be focusing on hypertensive crisis. So hypertension is defined as the elevated blood pressure, that is blood pressure more than 140 systolic and more than 90 diastolic. And the diagnosis of hypertension is made on three occasions. The reading of blood pressure taken on three occasions: when the patient is lying in supine position, sitting position, at rest. If the blood pressure at all the three occasions is found to be elevated, then only the patient is regarded as having hypertension. So once the patient is diagnosed with hypertension, we try to find out the cause of increased blood pressure. If the cause is not found, say for example, there might be thyrotoxicosis, pheochromocytoma, bilateral renal artery stenosis, or any other hormonal disease. If such a cause of increase in blood pressure is not found, we call it as essential hypertension. And in such patients, the different measures are taken to decrease the blood pressure. First of all, we try the non-pharmacological measures, and then if the blood pressure is not controlled, we add the pharmacological measures. So let us start with the pharmacotherapy. The non-pharmacological treatment given to the patients of hypertension is if the patient is having increased body weight, that is the body mass index is more than 25. We first of all ask the patient to reduce the body weight, clubbing the diet as well as exercise together, so that the body weight is reduced. We ask the patient to reduce the sodium consumption, that is it should be less than 5 grams the table salt, or the total content of sodium intake should be not more than 2 grams. The restriction of ethanol intake to the modest level if the patient cannot quit alcohol. Increase physical activity, at least 30 minutes of brisk walk is advised to the patients. The surgical treatment in the form of renal denervation in resistant cases of hypertension, and bariatric surgery in patients who are having obesity, that is BMI more than 30. So these are the measures which can be taken to reduce the blood pressure. These are the compelling indications for use of antihypertensive. In case the patient is pre-hypertensive, that is the blood pressure is less than that of stage 1, but it is not normal, that is it is more than 120/80. In that case, if the patient is having these conditions, that is heart failure, coronary artery disease, history of myocardial infarction, stroke, diabetes or chronic renal disease, in that case even the pre-hypertensive patients are advised the drug therapy to minimize the complications. Once the patient is diagnosed with hypertension and the non-pharmacological therapy is not able to achieve the targeted blood pressure, we start with the drug therapy. So to start with, we start the patients in stage 1 hypertension, we start with single drug. This single drug may be a thiazide, a calcium channel blocker. It may be a angiotensin converting enzyme inhibitor or angiotensin receptor blocker. So any of these drug can be started with depending upon any coexisting condition that the patient has, or the age, or the plasma renin levels of the patients. In elderly patients, we generally start with calcium channel blockers or thiazides. These drugs are preferable. In patients with a history of myocardial infarction or heart failure, we start with beta blockers, and we start with a lower dose and slowly increase the dose so that the patient does not experience hypotension. The dosages are to be increased every 2 to 4 weeks depending upon how much time the drug takes to achieve the targeted blood pressure. Say for example, the effect of beta blockers or thiazides take 2 to 4 weeks to show their effect. In such cases, the dosages should be escalated every 4 weeks so that we know what effect the drug has on the blood pressure and whether the target is achieved. If the target is not achieved, we escalate the dose gradually. If the patient is having stage 2 hypertension, we generally require two drugs because a single drug may not be able to achieve the targeted blood pressure. Among these two drugs, usually a thiazide is commonly used. This thiazide may be combined with ACE inhibitor or a beta blocker or a calcium channel blocker. If we do not get the expected response, we might try the another drug combination, or we may increase the dose of the drugs, or we may use some other combinations. So if no response is found during the treatment, we can change the class of the drug. We should not jump from one drug to another drug of the same class, because all the drugs of a class will show a similar effect with respect to the efficacy. If the patient shows side effects during the pharmacotherapy, we should reduce the dose or change the class of the drug, or reduce the dose and change the drug and use a drug from another class. While doing so, we should do these things gradually, but if the adverse effect is a severe one, we can stop the drug and start over with another drug. So there are certain rules while combining two drugs together for treatment of hypertension. For example, drugs that increase the plasma renin activity like diuretics, vasodilators, calcium channel blockers and ACE inhibitors. Due to reflex sympathetic stimulation, the plasma renin activity increases. So these drugs are to be combined with those drugs that decrease the renin activity like beta blockers, which block the beta 1 receptors in the kidney and decrease the renin release. Clonidine and methyl dopa, which are central sympatholytic and decrease the renin activity. So these combinations will take care of the plasma renin activity. Drugs causing fluid retention. So drugs like vasodilators or alpha blockers, these drugs cause fluid retention. Even calcium channel blockers cause pedal edema. So such kinds of drugs can be added along with diuretics so that the excess of fluid is thrown out of the body with thiazides. Then drugs causing tachycardia like vasodilators cause tachycardia due to reflex sympathetic stimulation. These drugs can be combined with beta blockers which cause bradycardia due to blockade of beta 1 receptors in the heart. So in this way the drugs should be combined. The ACE inhibitors or ARBs can be combined with diuretics, as this combination is synergistic for congestive heart failure and left ventricular hypertrophy. The increase in the potassium levels that is seen with AC inhibitors is balanced by the potassium loss that is seen with thiazide group of drugs. So in this way, the potassium levels can be balanced with such kind of combinations. The other combinations that can be used are AC inhibitors or ARBs with calcium channel blockers or beta blockers, then combination of beta blockers with prazosin. So these combinations will have a higher efficacy as compared to a single drug used for treatment of hypertension. Now there are some combinations that should not be used, like alpha or beta blocker. They indirectly antagonize the action of clonidine, hydralazine with DHP or prazosin. So all these drugs are vasodilators. So two drugs having same mechanism, a similar mechanism of action should not be combined unless we want to have, say for example, if we want to have a drastic reduction in blood pressure, we might think of combining prazosin and hydralazine, but still such combinations can lead to potential drastic release in the decrease in the blood pressure. Drugs, calcium channel blockers, that is verapamil or diltiazem, should not be combined with beta blockers because both cause decrease in the heart rate and can lead to marked bradycardia or even AV block. Combination of methyl dopa with clonidine, these both of these drugs are central sympatholytic drugs. So such any two drugs of same class should not be combined. This slide summarizes the pharmacotherapy of patients depending upon the various factors related to the patient. Say for example, a patient with stage 1 hypertension should be prescribed lifestyle modifications as a trial, so that if the non-pharmacological therapy causes fall in the blood pressure to the normal levels, the drugs may not be required. We might consider the use of thiazides in such patients, stage 1 hypertension. After the therapy is started, the patient is asked to come back after 3 months and the blood pressure is checked. If the patient is having stage 2 hypertension, along with the lifestyle modifications or non-pharmacological therapy, two drug combinations are given, like thiazides and an AC inhibitor, or thiazide and ARBs, or thiazide and calcium channel blockers. Another combination that might be tried is AC inhibitors plus calcium channel blockers. The the combinations that are to be selected will depend upon the comorbidities that the patient have, or whether the patient can tolerate, or if the patient is having any history of adverse effect with any class of the drugs, or the patient is having any contraindication for use of a drug. So depending upon that, the combinations is decided. Generally the combination should be started with the two drugs given separately, not as a fixed dose combination. And uh, when we come to a dose that that suits for the patient, in that case the fixed dose combination then later might be prescribed. After giving these combinations, 2 to 4 weeks, the patient is asked to come after 2 to 4 weeks and the blood pressure is checked. In case of both these stage 1 and stage 2 hypertension patients, treatment after they come back for checking their blood pressure, if there is no effect on the blood pressure or the desired level is not achieved, in that case the combination of drugs is tried, that is thiazides along with AC inhibitors, ARBs, calcium channel blockers can be tried. The class of the drug can be changed if the combination was already prescribed to the patient, or the dosages may be altered. and after altering the dosages or changing the drug, the patient is again asked to come after 2 to 4 weeks to review the blood pressure. If the blood pressure is the goal blood pressure is achieved, we ask the patient to continue with the treatment. In case the patient can afford a sphygmomanometer, digital sphygmomanometer, we can ask him to monitor his blood pressure at home and take the notes of his blood pressure. If the blood pressure is elevated, he might he should be asked to come and get his blood pressure checked again. If still there is no target achieved, again the increase or decrease in the dosages or change in the classes of drugs may be tried. Instead of 2-3 drugs may be tried, and it is seen whether the patient is taking the medications, whether the patient is compliant. This is one of the problems, that the patient might not take the drugs and his blood pressure is not getting controlled. The other problem might be that the non-pharmacological therapy is also not followed, which is also one of the important aspect of treatment of hypertension. In case all these patient is following all the instructions, secondary cause may be thought of, which was not seen, which may have been missed earlier. The uh, thyroid profile, the clonidine test for checking the or diagnosing pheochromocytoma, or any other such test depending upon the clinical examination of the patients may be tried. And depending upon the causes that might have led to uncontrolled blood pressure, the pharmacotherapy is changed and the patient is asked to review or come back after 2 to 4 weeks. So in this way a cycle runs, and every patient is a unique patient, so individual, so he should be treated accordingly. These guidelines are not strict rules, but they are to be followed in such a manner that the individualized treatment gives maximum benefit to the patient. Most of the times it is seen that around 50 to 60% of population of hypertension is not being properly treated. So pregnant women with hypertension might come for the first time. We call it as pregnancy induced hypertension, or pregnant women who previously had history of hypertension might also be encountered. So in both these cases antihypertensive therapy is important, because it might lead to end organ damage, it might complicate into preeclampsia and eclampsia and lead to loss of fetus and other complications. So antihypertensive drugs are not safe during pregnancy, but still treatment of hypertension is important during pregnancy. The drugs that cannot be given or are contraindicated during pregnancy are diuretics, which cause loss of fluids and electrolytes. AC inhibitors and ARBs cause teratogenicity. The non-selective beta blockers like propranolol are contraindicated, and sodium nitroprusside should not be used in treatment of eclampsia. The drugs that are relatively safe are hydralazine, methyl-dopa, the dihydropyridines among the calcium channel blockers, and cardioselective beta blockers like labetalol, carvedilol may be tried. Alpha blockers like prazosin and clonidine. So these drugs are safe for treatment of hypertension in pregnancy. The most commonly used drug was methyl dopa, but it is now less commonly used. maybe it is not available in the market, or it has been uh, the trend has been towards use of calcium channel blockers or the cardioselective beta blockers. Hypertensive emergency and hypertensive urgency are two situations in which the blood pressure of the patient is elevated, that is more than 180 systolic or more than 120 diastolic. The hypertensive emergency patients come with symptoms of end organ damage, while the patients of hypertensive urgency have incidental finding of increase in the blood pressure. In both these cases, the treatment is same, and a drastic reduction in blood pressure is required in patients of hypertensive emergency to prevent the end organ damage. The drug of choice for treatment of hypertensive emergency is sodium nitroprusside, because it has both arteriolar and vasodilatory effect. The action is rapid, and the dosages can be titrated because of its ultra short half-life. Sodium nitroprusside is to be given in special bottles which are having dark color, so that the sunlight or heat may not destroy the drug inside. Sodium nitroprusside cannot be continued for a long period of time because it can be converted into cyanide in the body, which is metabolized in liver. But if the patient is suffering from liver disorder, or if the drug is given for a long period of time, this cyanide might accumulate in the body and lead to poisoning. However, sodium nitroprusside is drug of choice for patients of congestive heart failure, myocardial infarction, or in any case of hypertensive emergency, because of its rapid control of blood pressure and easy titration. This drug is given by IV route. The other drugs that can be used are glyceryl trinitrate, diazoxide. Diazoxide is one of the drugs that is given by bolus injection, and it can be given in conditions where sodium nitroprusside is not available. Glyceryl trinitrate is preferred in patients with acute left ventricular failure, myocardial infarction, or patients with elevated blood pressure post surgery, and it is given by IV infusion. Then we have hydralazine, which is an arteriolar dilator. This drug does not show any major feedback increase in sympathetic stimulation, and may be used in hypertensive emergencies. Esmolol is a short-acting beta blocker with a rapid reduction in blood pressure. Esmolol is specially recommended in patients with aortic dissection or conditions in which the elevation in blood pressure is due to increase in the sympathetic activity. Being a beta blocker, it reduces the sympathetic activity. Then we have phentolamine and phenoxybenzamine, which are alpha blockers, and these drugs are preferred in treatment of pheochromocytoma. Phentolamine is also useful in decreasing the blood pressure due to cheese reaction and clonidine withdrawal. Then we have labetalol, which is a alpha plus beta blocker, and this drug is also used in controlling the blood pressure due to pheochromocytoma. This drug is not advised in patients with asthma or acute heart failure because it is a sympatholytic drug. Then we have furosemide, which may be used in hypertensive emergencies wherein there is pulmonary edema or heart failure, so that the excess volume is reduced by diuresis as well as the vasodilatory effect of furosemide. We also have clonidine, which is generally used in clonidine withdrawal. So in this way, we have various drugs that can be used in hypertensive emergencies. The blood pressure has to be controlled within a short span of time to prevent the end organ damage like renal failure, or uh, there might be stroke, there might be intracranial bleeding. So all these things can happen in hypertensive emergency patients. The drug may be selected depending upon the cause of elevation in the blood pressure. Even so, sodium nitroprusside is the drug of choice for hypertensive emergencies when available, and it can be given in all patients. A combination of these drugs might also be tried uh, while treating the patients of hypertensive emergencies. So in this video I have discussed the pharmacotherapy of hypertension, the using drugs in patients who are pregnant and hypertensive, and treatment of hypertensive emergencies. Thank you.